Question I hear a lot on the Jaguar forum is, how do you jack the car? Well, I might not be doing it right, but this works for me, and this is the way I do it. The JTIS says to jack it on the front suspension cross member. Well, the only thing that I could find when I looked for the first time that was that looked like a suspension cross member was this piece right here, directly underneath the radiator, and it's directly behind the oil cooler, or maybe that's the transmission cooler. I don't know which one it is, but it's maybe 6 or 8 inches behind that front radiator right there, and it's directly underneath the main radiator. It's covered by this piece of plastic, and I forget what that piece of plastic is called. It's a valance or something like that, but it's replaceable. It's like 120 bucks to replace it, but it's meant to rub the road, like when you hit bumps and stuff, to protect the chassis of the car. Now, the first time I did this, I got a trolley jack or a floor jack, and I put it right underneath that, and as I started jacking it, I could hear this cracking noise, but anymore it doesn't make a cracking noise. I'm gonna jack it up here. Maybe we can see a little better. There is I got the car. It's hard to do this with a camera in one hand. I'm trying to work the jack with the other. Alright, so now I got the car up in the air, and you can see a little bit better where that's located. The oil pan is right back there, and I see nothing else. I mean, the only other thing that could have been a central jacking point is directly underneath or above this right here, and this stuff right here, that's way too fragile to put a jack under. So when it comes to the front suspension cross member, the only thing I can think of is this piece that's directly underneath the radiator and covered by that plastic piece. That's how you do the front. Now, after I get the front of the car up in the air, what I do, I like to put some jack stands underneath it, and I position them right here. This is the jacking point right here. You can see that little notch in the rail along the bottom. What I do, I put my jack stands, I put them right here, because right there, let me move this out of the way. There's a bolt right here. I just put it between the bolt and that rail, because that is a good solid chunk of steel right there. And I put the jack stand right there on both sides of the car, and then I lower the jack so that the car is actually resting on the jack stands. That way I don't knock the jack stand out of the way and then have the car drop on me. To jack the back end of my car, here's what I do. First, I've got a wooden block that I put on top of my trolley jack, and then it slides way, here, let me back out here. So here's the back end of the car. This thing slides way, way, way up under here. And when I say way, first, if you look way back there, you see those two little bolts sticking down, or nuts, or whatever they are? That's where I'm aiming for. And I slide this way up there until it's directly under those two nuts, because that's a very solid point on the underside of the car. And then I just start tightening this down. Just start jacking it up, making sure that thing is centered under there. Sorry for the shaky camera. I can't do this on the tripod because it's so low. And it looks to me like I'm centered, but normally I'm moving around to make sure I'm centered on it. When I say centered, I'm talking about centered forward and backward. Hang on a second. And yeah, you can see that my 2 bolts are almost directly centered underneath the head of the jack there, which is perfect. So that's like the sturdiest part on the underside of the rear end. So now I've got the rear end jacked up. I put jack stands right in front of the rear wheel wells, and I'll show you where those go. Okay, this is the left rear wheel well, and I take my jack stand and I put it so it's right here next to that nut. You see the nut right there. And this is a good sturdy place on the frame. And I put my jack stand right about here. Or sometimes I've done it like this, or I've put it sideways like that right there. Either way, this is like probably the sturdiest part of the frame on the rear end here. And I've never had any problems by putting the jack stand right there. And that's it. That's how I jack the rear end and the front end, and that's where I put my jack stands.